Well, I'm not sure this will ever get old. Hello one and all, welcome to Seen Through Glass. Welcome to my Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale. If you didn't see last week's video, after what, 10 years of bang on about these cars on this channel, I actually went out and bought one. I bought my dream car. Now, I ended up winning this car at auction. Got it for a bit of a steal, some 40 or 50 grand under current market value for a right-hand drive 360 Challenge Stradale. I think one of the main reasons for that is because, well, the car basically hasn't moved since 2015. The previous owner kept it in storage and just kind of looked at it because it's real pretty, at least in mine and his minds. Now, I know, having previously owned a 360 Modena and spending a lot of time around modern classics, well, that is a bit of a disaster because the less you use these cars, the more issues they tend to get. And I think that's why a lot of people kind of steered clear of this thing. But it was a considered risk in my mind. We'll come back to that a little bit later. Anyway, today I'm taking the car down to Alders at AV Engineering, the absolute legend who meticulously maintained my 360 Modena for the 6 or so years that I owned that. And he's going to give it a full inspection to find out, well, I guess whether I bought a turd or a gem. Right, I have now made it to AV Engineering. I've just handed the car over to Alders and I'm setting up camp in here. Firstly because, well, there's a heater in here, it's a little bit warmer. But secondly because I don't want to be around whilst he inspects my car. My initial impressions of the sort of mechanical state of that car have been really good. I've been impressed. Actually better than I thought it was going to be. But Alders has a very specific eye. He has an incredible eye for detail. He knows so much about these cars and Ferraris in general that he can just spot things instantly, things that most other people wouldn't notice. So whilst I'm hoping there's not going to be that long a list of work that needs to be done with the car, I'm aware there's going to be quite a few bits. And yeah, I just don't want to be there whilst he goes, oh, look at this, oh, I'm going to get too much anxiety. So I'm going to hide myself in here and then I'll go back out once he's finished his inspection and he's got, yeah, I guess the to-do list together. It's happening. Apparently we have an initial report. I mean, oh, that's a big list.
It's not a big list. It really isn't for a car of this vintage, bought blind, at auction, cheap. It's not a big list at all.
Okay.
And a lot of these things are little fiddly bits and pieces. There are some medium-sized tickets on here. No big tickets yet, which is good. But I haven't test driven it. The only drive I've had is about in our yard. I did notice the steering wheel's massively off.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to need a wheel alignment. But I haven't actually taken it up to any sort of speed or anything like that. But you know, you've driven it here, so you've got a good idea of that. But there's just a couple of things that we need to do now so that you can take it away, and then we need to get it booked back in, and then we can start getting through some of these bits and pieces. But,
okay, well look, just let's go then. Kickstart. Let's walk around to show and tell. Why don't you?
Yeah, I suppose. Well, with these, everybody asks, what's the clutch wear, what's the brake wear? So, and that I don't think it was listed in the auction, was it?
No.
So it's not bad. Brakes are 25% worn.
Okay.
Which means that which we know there was an invoice for discs being replaced, which is good. It was replaced at a franchise dealer, so they were able to reset the wear algorithm in the dash. So all positive there. Clutch is 36% worn.
Oh, I think that's really good.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably about halfway through
I
its
said
life.
really good. I said really good. You said good, but still, yeah.
It's
all right.
It's okay. It's drivable, right? And it's usable. You know, you can use this car on this clutch for a few years, easy.
Fine, okay.
Something else will probably happen in the Bellhausen, which will cause us to go in there, and you know, you've always got that while you're there sort of thing to deal with. But most of the stuff that, as I say, most of the things are just little fiddly bits and pieces. So we've got a bit of corrosion around the car, which is really common for these. The worst bit is here.
Okay.
So in this bit here, there's a big patch of corrosion here. We've got a little bit here, and a tiny bit under the seal here.
Oh, okay.
There's also the same on the other side down under there as well. But it's very, very typical for these cars. And actually the modern cars as well. We've got an F12 over there that's got corrosion
as well.
Annoyingly under the PPF.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is annoying.
This is
okay. Well, that's so both sides by the door, but then this side is worse.
Yeah, the wing and the thing. At some point, this car's going to need some paint and some other finessing at the body shop. Okay. We've got a poorly aligned front bumper, so it tucks in under here. The gap is wrong here. Yeah,
I've noticed a big panel gap for the front bumper.
Yes,
for sure.
So the wiper blades are terrible.
Yep. Found that out the day I collected it.
It's actually hitting the wiper arms, hitting the screen here, which is very, very common. It's a combination of a bad wiper arm and a bad wiper mechanism. Okay. And unfortunately it's damaged the screen. Whilst we're on the subject of the screen, this is not a CS screen. The CS screen's got a different level of tint on the top bit here, which is a little bit
we really
annoying.
struggled to get the modern
It may
screen.
be that the screen was cracked and the CS screens weren't available at the time.
Sure. Okay.
Screens, they come and go at the factory very, very quickly. So at least it's got a crack-free screen in it, which makes it drivable. On the subject of glass, you reported that we've got wind noise from both windows. The window regulators wear out and they just require some adjustment. They generally the window tilts forward a little bit, so we just need to get this door stripped down and realigned.
Sure.
The big giveaway is the gap on the trailing edge here. Okay. So when the window's window's up, you get a big gap at the front versus a small gap here.
And that's been probably what the whistling noise.
Yes, that'd be the whistling noise at speed. Okay. We've got a wobbly mirror here. Yep. Again, very, very common. That can just be repaired there. We've got a tight cable, outer cable here. So there's a cable that runs from the outer door handle, curls around and goes to the lock, and it's super stiff.
I've had a couple of times where actually inside it doesn't release again, so when I close the door doesn't close.
It just
properly.
goes back and just flaps around.
Yeah.
That will need to be sorted on the kind of medium priority list, because if that seizes, then you'll get to a point where you won't be able to open the door.
Great.
I've got a fix for it, but it involves some invasive procedure down here. You have to jam this bit open and get onto the lock in there. Sure. Air conditioning is not working, just doesn't work. I suspect the condenser is at fault.
Okay.
So at the front, if I put the UV light on the condenser, you can see some dye on there. So I suspect all the gas has leaked out, so we need a condenser there. If we go around to the back, we have got a coolant cap. This is nice. So this is not long serviced. And they let it go out like that. That's going to need a cap. We'll do that now because...
Was that you having a little dig at the...
Well...
it was a bit, wasn't it?
Unfortunately, we see this. So you've sent me the service invoice. The last service, although it was in February, it was hardly any miles ago. This shouldn't have been let out like this. Also, on the service invoice, it said that they've changed the brake fluid. Well, I've measured the water content of the brake fluid and it's over 5%, so that wasn't changed at the last service. So it's just, unfortunately, it is typical.
I'm sure.
This is a bit of a strange one. This exhaust is fitted in the wrong place. So it's too far back, so the tailpipes are sticking out too far, and it's actually the silencer's been contacting on the frame here, and it's actually chewed away the aluminium frame. So we're going to have to get that out, and we'll take this box off here. This is detachable, and then we'll see whether we can repair that. I've got a guy that does aluminium welding for me, so we'll see whether we can get that sorted. Whilst around the back, we've got something going on here. So these grills here, these are specific to the CS. They actually match the Challenge grill here, but they've been fitted back to front. This is actually the right-hand grill, and vice versa on the other side. And you can tell that because the trim that runs around the edge here is actually on the inside, which is a bit weird, and a little bit disappointing. But you know, who knows? It may have had some paint or something at some point in its life, and someone's just put it back on as is. I think. Last thing, whilst we're down on the ground, is the seal for the fuel flap is become detached, which you probably have noticed. I think it happened on your 360 as well. Usually we can glue them back in place. At worst, it's another fuel cap.
Fine.
But you know, overall.
Yeah, and actually, a lot of this stuff has kind of been more cosmetic than mechanical.
Actually, mechanical. The actual mechanical nuts and bolts and bits of the car, very good. Very, very good.
So far.
So what we need to do is we need to send the car up in the air, and then we'll have a look underneath and just see what's going on there.
Sure. As you can see, Alders really knows what he's talking about when it comes to these cars. I mean, the inspection only took about 30 minutes and he's already spotted so many things which I hadn't. Now, for you negative Nancy's out there, a reminder that this is an inspection. I've literally asked Alders to look over the car and spot everything he can. Of course, some of these things I might not deem necessary to change or fix. Some will need to be done sooner rather than later, and some I might never do. I mean, that's unlikely, to be honest, but long story short, these guys are not garage pirates looking to rip me off just because I didn't get the car inspected before I bought it. Alders just knows the level that I like to keep my cars and how I want them to be turnkey and ready to go on any adventure. So by outlining all this stuff, it means we can make a solid plan for the months and even years ahead. Now, it's not just Challenge Stradales that these guys have an insane knowledge of. They're also working on lots of newer Ferraris that are basically falling out of their service packs, like the F12s. They're also restoring a delivery mileage F430, which is kind of like a barn find and eventually is going to go up for sale. And they always seem to have one or two cool Lambos knocking around. Anyway, my car's now up in the air, so let's continue with the inspection results. Right, up in the air now.
Okay.
Are we still looking good?
Absolutely, and we should probably talk about the bits that aren't on the list, the good bits.
Sure.
And the main good bit is that it's dry.
I mean, that's the best news,
The box
isn't it?
is dry, the actuator is dryish. They always got a bit of a leak on them. But we're drying the bell housing. That's a big ticket item to get into there, 10 hours work. And the engine's dry, the cam seals are dry, valve cover gaskets are dry. I know they were done at the last service. So, you know, there's a lot of good stuff here. And it's clean as well, which is nice. You know, It's not a car that has been leaking oil heavily in its life. So yeah.
That is a very good start.
There are some good starts. There is a good start, yes. A few bits to do. First of all, rear tyres, 10 years old.
10 years old?
10 years old. So
I thought it was a full new set.
Well, on the date code on them is 10 years. So,
okay.
New in terms of tread depth, but the rubber will be very, very
How have I survived so far?
Well, in these temperatures, so these are the Corsa tyres, which were specific for the CS.
Sure.
And there's not much tread on them at all. They're not exactly what we call winter tyres.
Nope.
And they're absolutely terrible in the rain, and which you can probably attest to.
Yep.
So they're going to be it's going to be pretty lively at the rear. Fronts are brand new.
Okay.
So you're going to have this disparity in grip between front and rear, which is probably the nice way to have it.
Sure.
You know, but you know, I think obviously you've got a tie-in with Pirelli, and no doubt that we can sort something out there, something nice for the.
Did they have a winter fitment size for the CS?
That's a very good question. So I'm not sure. I know there is one for the 360 because we've done it.
Because we did it.
We've done it before.
Watch this space. I might be coming back to you on that.
We should look in your owner's manual. That's what.
Good point.
You being the owner.
Very good point. Thank you for that.
No, the owner's manual is actually got a lot of information in there. I only know of one CS that went out of here on winter tyres.
The white car.
And the white car, the white manual CS, and that went on stock sizes.
Interesting.
So we went out on stock sizes on that.
Okay.
But
Noted.
yes, well,
We continue.
you get it down to the snow, go skiing in it.
Let's not get too carried away for now. Let's make sure we can actually drive out of here today. But yeah.
Okay, so this is a particularly big job that needs to be done. Quite time consuming, and the parts are quite expensive.
Okay.
And it's to do with the brakes. So it's not the brake discs, which are unbelievably expensive, or the pads, which are really, really expensive. It's the calipers. And what's happening is the calipers, and this is the worst one, the calipers are binding. So this wheel is extremely difficult to turn.
Okay.
It should just spin around, but it's the caliper is binding. Really common on these Brembo calipers, and it's because they don't have any protection on the piston. And I don't know whether it's pretty difficult to see here, but this is the same. This is the rear one, but between the pad and the caliper, the piston just pokes out, and there's no protective boot or anything, so it's open to the elements. And because the cars don't get used that much, the pistons just sit in one place, corrode on the outside and corrode in place and seize, and then you end up with sticking brakes.
Okay.
We need to sort this out. I'm going to have a go at freeing this one off before you leave. So this is the second thing that we're going to do today before you actually just go away. But the next job for us to do when it comes back into the workshop is to rebuild these calipers. What will happen is if you don't rebuild them, it will just chew the discs up, which are really expensive. And it's usually the inside pad that gets stuck for some reason, and you end up with a really poor surface on the inside of the disc. So it does require.
Just so I know what I've signed up for. When you say really expensive.
So fortunately, if you went to Ferrari, they would sell you new calipers.
But if I wanted to get discs and
discs. So the last set of discs that I bought for a CS, I think they were about 10 grand plus VAT. I'll have to look at the invoices. Yes.
Okay.
That's expensive. The pads are about £1 grand an axle.
So it's four grand there.
An axle. So
sorry, an axle. Sorry, not a corner. Okay, fine.
If you went to Ferrari and you needed you had sticking calipers, needed them rebuilt, they would just sell you new calipers, which are, I haven't even looked at the price of them because we never buy them. We rebuild them. We've got kits from Hill Engineering. They make the pistons in stainless steel, remake them, provide the seals. The kit is quite expensive. It's a thick end of £1 grand, but it's a kind of fit and forget sort of situation. And obviously there's a decent amount of labour involved just to take the caliper off, strip it down, clean it all up, and put it all back together again and commission it. But it does need to be done, otherwise you will be in for 10 grand for new discs.
Yep, let's avoid that.
So we've got suspension wise, surprisingly we've only got 2 items.
Okay. Wow.
Which is incredible for A360. But it also shows that at the last service they actually did quite a lot of work, and I think the listing actually showed some of the bits and pieces. There was a big bill in 2022.
Yeah, for sure.
So they did some stuff and didn't do other things. Just 2 ball joints, left hand front lower and left hand rear upper.
Okay.
We've talked about the AC condenser, and it's difficult to see. We tried to get it on camera, but you just can't see because of the lights, but the condenser is leaking.
Okay.
So that's going to need a new condenser. And then the last point, which is we're seeing a lot more of this on 360s now, and anybody that's got a 360 they should check. There's a bracket that holds the pipes, the oil pipes, to the frame, and we'll get a picture for you. And the pipes wear the bracket through, so the bracket is just a single small piece of aluminium bar, and it wears it through, and then you end up with 2 sharp pointy bits pointing at the oil pipes, and ultimately they will cut the oil pipe, and then you'll lose all the oil, and then you can actually risk engine failure. The brackets themselves, I think they're less than 15 quid and no time at all to fit, so it's not an issue, but 360 owners really should check this as part of their servicing regime. But it's not that bad, I don't think.
It's actually not that bad. Like I would give it like a solid 6 or 7 out of 10 in terms of.
Oh no, much more.
Oh,
much
you'd be kinder than that.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay, well look at that.
6.5 maybe.
6.5. Thank you so much.
No, definitely. It's a good car. Underneath, it's a solid car. It needs work, and there hasn't been a single time when a car has rolled through the workshop for the first time And we've said, oh, you don't need to do anything with this.
Of course.
Because there's always something.
There's always something, and as I was explaining to people, that's not because you're here to rip people off. That's because, firstly, you make sure that all of these cars leave as near perfect as they can be, but also it's the level of detail. And that's the thing is, you know, the main dealer clearly missed some stuff or avoided some stuff when this car was given its recommissioning in 2022. But that's not really how we like to run these cars, and you know how I like to use my cars. So
yes.
All of this stuff, as you say, some of it urgent, some of it not so urgent, but stuff that needs to be done to make sure that I can jump in and go on a mission. That's not a nail, is it? No. Phew, God, I had a little panic there for a second.
No, we did check them.
Yeah.
No nails at the moment.
Okay, good man. Well, look, thank you so much as always.
My pleasure.
So you're going to do this couple of bits, and then we're going to have to, I guess, find time to book the car in for the big work.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, there we go. We now know the damage. A little bit worse than maybe I thought, but nowhere near as bad as it could have been. Fundamentally, it's a pretty solid car and a great starting point for us to then, well, refine it, refresh it, tighten it up to make it the best version of itself and the kind of ultimate Stradale for me. But for now, I just want to live with it and enjoy it. So as you can see, I'm driving it away today because I've got a few things to do with it this week. It'll then go back down to AVE Engineering so that some of the sort of critical work can be done before we go off on our first adventure with this car. I don't need to do that entire list that Orders just gave me. Some of those jobs can wait, some of them can be done in conjunction with other bits and bobs that I want to do, but a couple of those things do need to be done straight away. And so yeah, that will happen, and definitely need to get some fresh rubber on this thing. And then with time, we'll address some of the other things, but over and above the kind of mechanical stuff that Orders just outlined, I've noticed some sort of cosmetic aesthetics that I think I'm going to want to change or improve. We mentioned the corrosion, so it's going to need some paint at some point, but in here I've got sticky buttons once again. If you watched my 363 Modena restoration series, you'll know that sticky buttons are something that kind of plagues this era of Ferraris and Maseratis. It's an expensive and time-consuming thing to fix, but something that I really know I'm going to want to do. This radio unit is a disaster, that's got to go. If we're going to do that, maybe I'll also upgrade the speakers. The Ferrari badges or logos in the centre of the wheels are a bit faded. I want to update. There's just bits and bobs that we'll just slowly work on. And a few of you have sent me messages about things like, oh, do we manual convert it? And look, I'm not saying no. That could definitely be an option one day, but for now, I just want to live with a Challenge Stradale as it came out of the factory, because as I keep banging on, my dream car. So I'm not here to kind of chop it apart on day one. Let me just enjoy it for what it is and make it a great version of itself, and then we can start to look at things like manual conversions, even ECU tunes. You might remember I did that with my Modena. There's some very clever software tweaks that can be done just to make this car the best version of itself. I'm never going to like supercharge it and make it 1,000 horsepower. It's going to remain as OEM as possible. But yeah, just things that, you know, we've learned with time can be tweaked and improved. But if I'm honest, in my mind, this car is basically near on perfect from when it left the factory nearly 20 years ago. So I just love all of this. I'm so happy, despite the fact I know a lot of work needs to be done. I am so happy. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you have. As I say, the car will be off the channel for a few weeks now, just while some of that work gets done. And then it will be back, hoping not too long, for its first adventure, which I think has to be like a European adventure, right? Or sorry, a mainland Europe adventure. So yeah, stay tuned for that.